And now it is time for us to go to our Dynamic Life Cycle Innovations family interview area with Joni Smith.
Thank you guys so very much. Jumping in to help us out in the interview area, Joan Meyers. We've known each other for a long time. First of all, thank you from the bottom of our heart. We had a little scheduling thing, and you're with the Gensler Group. You were over there on the phone banks, the Versity Blood Center of Wisconsin phone banks, and we pulled you out of the phone banks, and we slapped you in the middle of the interview area. And the reason being, first of all, is because you're a very generous person. And second of all, is years ago we talked about your little preemie, and his name is Jake Meyers. And I know the story, but let's turn back the clock. 19 years now. Take us back to how Jake was getting ready to enter the world.
Okay, let's see. It was in October, and I was 23 weeks pregnant, and my water broke. And so we came here, and they stopped labor, and he was actually without amniotic fluid until he was born at 28 weeks.
Who was your physician at the time? Because you threw out a name, I thought, oh, I remember.
Dr. Hampson.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did not go back home at that point and do your normal routine. What were you able to do and not to do at that time?
I could do pretty much nothing. I was on bed rest, and I could be up for a total of maybe 2 hours a day.
They're worried, obviously, about Jake coming into the world way too early as it was,
Right.
but certainly wanted to, have you two stay the course for as long as you possibly could.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And when did Jake come into the world?
He was 28 weeks, 5 days. So on November 22nd.
So his birthday is coming up.
Yep.
It's going to be 19.
19.
Okay, so how much did Jake weigh when he was born?
2 pounds, 12 ounces. Yeah.
That is a tiny, tiny little baby.
Yeah. It was, my sister has a little bit bigger hands than I do, but her pinky could stretch from the bend in his elbow to the tip of his longest finger, and that was as long as her pinky finger.
When you paint that visually, we can all just, use our own hand and see just how long he was. You had to be in the hospital for a long time.
I was not personally, but he was for
Jake
81
was.
days.
81 days.
Yep.
So now everything has changed. You're not doing your employment routine. You aren't doing your hubby probably is running back and forth
Right.
at this point. So
Yep.
you've been in Gunderson here for 81 days. What happened to Jake during that period of time? What was going on physically with him?
Well, he was in an isolette, and right away he had a ruptured small intestine, but we didn't know what that was at the time. So, he was 6 days old, and the morning he was fine, and by noon his stomach was starting to be a little distended, and by 4 o'clock it was black. And so Dr. Sig, who I saw was interviewed here.
Yeah, he was here on Thursday.
Yeah, with Logan, I think I saw.
Yes.
He did his first surgery at 6 days old and found that it was a ruptured small intestine. And they took out, I think, if I remember correctly, 2 centimeters of his small intestine.
Well, first of all, you must have been scared to death because there's surgery on your 6-day-old little guy. But at that point, it was exploratory surgery. You really didn't.
Correct.
Nobody knew until you
we
went
opened him
further
up.
to see what was going on.
Yep.
All right. How did he do?
He did great. And within probably maybe 2 days or 3 days, his stomach went back to normal. And he started turning a corner and was starting to get a little bit better. And then by Christmas, New Year's time frame, he was infected. He had, I think, 7 different infections at the time, and staph was their least concern of the types of infections that he had.
Had to be worried, just
yeah.
beyond belief.
Yeah.
Beyond belief. Still to this day, it's 19 years ago, and it's still choking up, and we don't mean to do that, so we're going to move on and tell you some great news. 3 calls have come in since we've been talking at 608. Let's hear it for the 3 calls. There you go. Want to make sure you're still with us. It's 608-784-KIDS, 608-784-5437. We are hearing the story of Jake Meyers. How was it heading home?
It was different.
I bet it was.
Yeah. We had monitors and oxygen, and I worked from home for about a year. And like I was just telling you earlier, it's hard to believe, but I literally did not step foot in a grocery store for over a year.
How could you?
Right.
First of all, you were on bed rest for part of that time. Second of all, you're bringing home. How much did he weigh? Do you remember when you brought him home?
He was still under 4 pounds.
He was still under 4 pounds, even after being here 80 some days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was just under 4 pounds. But at that point, he had just gotten over the infections, and the better choice was to send him home than to keep him here.
Okay. And that's what you did.
That's what we did.
So you got used to monitors going off.
Oh, yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
So you and your hubby, nobody's sleeping through the night anymore.
No.
That just didn't happen.
Right.
Well, the good news is, as he got a little bigger, things got better. However, there was a hearing issue that came into the mix.
Yep. Yep. So he's got about an 87% loss in the most common decibel ranges in his left ear.
Was that part of being a preemie? Was that
the type of hearing they can't trace back to prematurity? It's the most common type of hearing loss.
Okay.
But he's been like that since he was born. So more than likely, it was probably the result of extremely high oxygen levels when he was born that he needed.
So Children's Miracle Network, you knew about them at that point,
I
or
did
didn't
not.
you?
Well, once we were in the hospital, once my water broke, is when I found out about CMN. I had heard about them, but I didn't have any idea really what they were all about until we were in the hospital.
Who brought you the news that the organization existed? Do you remember? Was it a doctor? Was it a nurse?
No, it was Mary Egan, the social worker.
Okay. And Mary said, hey, you guys might not know it yet, but you're probably going to need a little help. Is that what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, and she said, she gave me the little booklet on CMN and what they all did, and then she said, there's times that she would be checking in, there's other people that would be checking in on me, and they would be talking with the doctors and the nurses, and they would find out if there were things that CMN could help us with.
And there was a piece of equipment actually here in the hospital that the funds came from Children's Miracle Network.
Right. At that time, Jake needed a ventilator that they called the Jet, and it was the only vent of that type in this area. And CMN had purchased that vent for Gunderson here in the NICU.
Conversations we've had the last 2.5 days, every time we sit down and have one, there's something different and new that comes up with ways of that. And they also made sure that you guys took time and had something to eat.
Yep.
Gas in your car?
Gas in the car, yep. Food vouchers. And at that time, insurance didn't really pay for anything with hearing much other than like the initial appointments and stuff. So CMN purchased his first hearing aid. And then for several years, I can't remember what you call it now, the part that goes in your ear, because you don't need a new total unit every time, but they grow. So the inside of the ear changes. So you need the mold. So they would pay for those molds for us. And, when they're little, you probably need 3 to 4 molds a year.
What we need now also is the phones to ring. It's 608-784-KIDS, 608-784-5437. He is 19 years old, our Mr. Jake right now. Yeah. He does not know that he has been the focus of this interview. So LB White is where he works, second shift?
Correct.
Okay, so if we have any co-workers that will be working with Jake coming up the next few days, make sure you tell him that we heard your mom talking about you. He probably will be very surprised about that.
He will love it, trust me.
The funds last year from the Emerald Ball, believe it or not, went to purchase a new jet ventilator.
Wow.
Piece of equipment necessary, used all the time, and there you go. The funds were used from that.
That's amazing.
It really is amazing. Was it hard for you guys to accept the help? I don't really remember, but I don't think so, because there's so many things coming at you. You don't really put it all together until it's over. We were trying to figure this out too, but don't test our memory. Are you still serving on the steering committee?
I am.
You are on the Children's Miracle Network steering committee. Doesn't matter how many years, because you just keep saying yes. as
They've
far
actually, they probably forgot to ask me to leave, maybe. But
Oh, they forgot
I'm
to ask you to
on.
leave? That's fine. That's fine. No, that's not the reason. Tell me about the steering committee and how, I don't know if we've ever brought that to light. The steering committee for Children's Miracle Network Hospital.
Yeah.
It's made up of
A lot of people. There's doctors, there's social workers, there's community members.
moms,
Yeah. There's a lot of different
staff members.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's maybe 12, 15 people on it. I forget. It kind of varies. But what we do is we meet now this time of the year. It's every other month. And we go through all of the grant requests. And we make sure that we are, lining them up with the needs that they're asking for. And, the funds are spread across, all of the grants where we can help the most.
So you understand very well about the importance of fundraising and monies that are needed because firsthand, you all as a committee, you're seeing those needs. Sometimes is it overwhelming?
It's always the different grants that come across that group are always eye-opening. They get you.
I'm sorry to do this to you. We'll take just a minute here. We have had so many different topics that have come up and so many different subjects as far as what families, they don't even know they're going to be needing this yet. But then there's things like music therapy. We have talked about music therapy for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Yeah. That's a big one that CMN, that the grants come across for that. And all of the different ways that people can learn, like whether it's a bicycle fit out, a certain type of a helmet, all these different things that there's a need and they're able to help.
Does it infuriate you, make you upset sometimes when you see it appears to us as a very simple piece of equipment, but when adaptive is added to it, 10 times the cost or even more? When we were talking just the other day about the bike trailer that you hook onto mom and dad's bike, I mean, if you'd run down to the store, it might be $120, $130, and it's $2,500
Right.
when it's adaptive.
Yeah.
And families, they don't have that in the budget.
Right.
Is it difficult? And I'm sure it is, making decisions.
It is, but fortunately, most of the grants that come across are really well thought out and written. And there's a lot of, doctors and therapists are interviewed and part of that grant. So you really get a good understanding as to the need and why they need it. And then it does not, to your first question, it doesn't infuriate me because a lot of these things are so targeted for a specific individual. You can't mass produce them to get the cost down.
That's right. And that's the point of view that we need to hear too, because we don't hear that point of view either.
Yeah, you can't. Some of that stuff is like specific for the individual.
Our number is 784 KIDS 608-784-5437. Talking with Joan Meyers, and focus is Jake. And our story, your story, has a happy ending.
Yeah.
Not all stories that we share together do, but Jake is healthy.
He is.
19 years old.
Yeah.
Graduated from Onalaska Luther.
Correct.
Okay. Second shift at LB White. We've already told everybody that.
Yep.
Okay. He has some plans for next year.
Yep. He wants to go to Western, and he's looking into the machinist program. So
It's a good thing you remembered machinist program,
Right.
because we were trying to think of occupations that Jake may want that might be funny.
Nail tech.
Yeah, nail tech. He was going to be a florist, but no, he's going for machinist.
Yeah.
That will definitely get back to him. We want to get these phones ringing at 608-784-5437. Joan Meyers jumping in with us, a member of the Gensler Group.
Yep.
What do you guys do?
It's architecture design. Yeah, we're a global firm based out of San Francisco, and we've had an office here in La Crosse for over 25 years.
And the support, your team is always with us. Always with us.
They're great.
The passion that your coworkers have.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to let you go back to the phone bank because we're still going to be busy here.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
you,
you.
honey, so much.
You're
It's
welcome.
been a pleasure. And thanks for jumping in. You're listening to the CMN Hospitals Radiothon. Put your money where the miracles are, a service of the La Crosse Media Group.
Thank you, Joni. And Joan, we sure appreciate that. All right, we are in less than an hour and a half now. It's these kind of stories that bring tears to your eyes, bringing tears to the eyes of everybody around here. Call now, 608-784-KIDS, 784-5437, our Versity phone bank. And with the folks from Gensler manning that until the top of the hour, we've only got less than an hour and a half now. Please, 784-KIDS, 784-5437. Help us. Let's make some phones ring now on the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals Radiothon.